2018 installment of Canyon Worship is our third full-length album in 3 years, and it's going to be hopefully one of the greatest in a series of Canyon Worship albums that we like to produce every single year out of the Center for Worship Arts at Grand Canyon University. Our GCU recording studio is part of our Worship Arts program, and it is in this studio that we are able to record these albums, and it's the Worship Arts students that contribute to the songs of the album. The result is the album. It's a compilation of amazing original songs from amazing songwriters in the Worship Arts program.
I've been impressed with the Worship Arts program from the minute I hit the ground. Particularly talking about the students on this album, it's really cool to see how selfless they are in promoting one another's songs and seeing how excited they are to see other songs have success. And so that has been the thing that's really stuck out to me, because you have these students with just an incredible amount of talent, but yet they're not about promoting themselves, but rather, most importantly, promoting Christ and pointing us to Christ, but then encouraging one another and rejoicing in one another's talents as well.
Canyon Worship 2016 was our first full-length album that came out of the recording studio and out of the Worship Arts program. Prior to that was an EP, and that was before the recording studio was built. The 2017 album had definitely the artist's soul and spirit in the songs, and the songs that you listen to stand alone as individual great songs. They're not necessarily songs that you might sing in a congregational setting. For 2018, we made a very intentional decision to begin steering the project toward the local church. We wanted to include songs on the 2018 album that you could imagine singing in a congregational setting in the church. And I think the biggest difference between 2018 and 2017, the year before, is that in 2018 you're going to hear a lot of songs that can be sung in a congregational setting. So the process for collecting songs that end up on the album is kind of a journey that the students have to go through. The students are encouraged to write original songs and submit them to our showcase. We have a showcase at the end of each semester, and the students submit songs for the showcase, but in the process of doing that, it's the faculty of the program that get to listen to those songs and kind of evaluate them to see which ones are going to be in the showcase. And so we end up with about 30 songs in a pool that we have to narrow down to the 10 that make it on the Canyon Worship album. 2018 was a little bit different in that that selection process was also enhanced by our producers. This is the second year we've invited back Jeff Hunker. He has experience in Nashville. He's in a Christian band called Satellites and Sirens. He is a local worship pastor at a megachurch in the East Valley. And then also we have Billy Smiley, who got his start in the Christian music industry with the Gaithers back in the day. So this year, the selection process, we kind of narrowed it down to about 18 songs. The producers selected the songs that they wanted to produce, and they got to work with the students that they selected. So the process of selecting the students is always really fun. We get to congratulate the students that made it on the album, and then we have to invite them in for a pre-production process. In the pre-production process, it's a chance for them to meet their producers for the first time. At that point, they learn which producer they're going to be working with, and then from there, the producers bring them in one-on-one, scheduled over several weeks. They bring them in for their pre-production sessions, which usually involve the producer getting to know the song, getting to know the artist. There's real relationship building that happens in that moment.
Yeah, right now we're just kind of getting in the room with the artists and students themselves and kind of getting a really good idea of where we need to head with the song. We're getting a lot of scratch tracks right now and kind of putting down that main bottom floor basically to kind of create and know where we're going to go with the song. Because as soon as we kind of get that idea and we've got a vibe of where that's supposed to go, it's a lot easier than moving forward to sit down and bring a drummer in. So yeah, right now we're kind of pre-production, get an idea of where we want to move with those songs and make sure that there's something that the student wants as well. And then we'll come back after pre-production and we'll start, recording for good.
It's been crazy working with Jeff. We've had a lot of fun and a lot of great ideas just in pre-production come to life. Since the time I wrote this song had changed a lot as I brought it into the pre-production meeting. So from what the demo was, it had already changed a lot, and then we changed a few chords and a little bit of the layout of the song, but for the most part, the ideas and visions I had when writing the song, we were able to start implementing those things from more than just a demo, just an acoustic thing, but actually bring in the visions that I had dreamed about as I was writing the song, and we saw that to start to come to life.
The recording process is broken out into phases. It all starts with the tracking process. In tracking, the students are coming in for the first time, figuring out which parts we're going to play today in the studio. A guitarist might be on hand, we might have a bass player in the studio. If we're doing drums that day, if today is a drum day, then we'll be tracking drums today. So the songs are put together in the tracking process over sometimes days or weeks based on the schedule of the artist or based on how much time we have in the studio to be able to record that day. So it all starts with tracking, and it's kind of a tedious process to be able to go through and get all of that initial tracking, all that initial recording done.
When students come in to record, you know, somehow it transitions from a live aspect. Most of these kids do chapel or lead at churches and stuff. And then when they get here, sometimes you lose energy or you lose sound. And that's because sometimes you get intimidated in a studio because it doesn't miss anything. It captures everything. So I just thought, we were talking, and with Harrison, he's high energy, wanted emotion. So I thought, well, after we get the regular vocal, first of all, he was singing and singing great, but then I encouraged him to kind of be yourself, use this mic in the studio as a mic on stage. And I said, use that to kind of put yourself into that arena. And then afterwards, I had heard stories of a lot of artists where they just throw on a set of headphones and sing with an SM58, which is just a surefire cheap mic that always works great for live concerts. And I said, let's try it in the control room. So I had him back there moving around and singing, and it was fun to kind of see. And what I'll do is take all of those vocal performances and see which one captures the spirit of the song the best.
Phase number 2 of the recording process is mixdown. So once all of the initial tracking is done, we kind of go into an editing phase, which is a precursor to mixdown. And then once all of the initial tracking is done, we're in the studio and we're mixing these tracks. All the artists have gone home at that point, generally speaking, and we get it to a point where we can share it with the artist and say, hey, what do you think about this? Is there anything that we need to tweak or change? Third phase is mastering. Once the recording phase and the mixing phase is done, then we send it out to mastering. And mastering is the process that kind of brings all of the 10 songs together in a similar sound.
I would say that overall this experience has been really eye-opening. Whenever you're recording with a professional that is from Nashville and you have like all these things going on, it's really eye-opening to whether you're called to something like that as a career or not. The difference of being a recording artist and for being a worship leader. And if anything, that has really influenced me in a good way to know where my calling is at. Having this experience has grown me in a lot of ways to figure out what I want to do and what I'm called to do and what kind of songs do I want to write and do I want to write songs and all these things. And so I would say that that is one thing that really was super cool about working with this album.
Here at GCU in the Worship Arts program, we're all about equipping students to be ministers in a local church context. But we have a great desire to see these students cultivate their talents in songwriting. And it's so cool to see how many students, even students who weren't on this 2018 album, who are so gifted in songwriting. So we want to help them be able to develop that craft. So we really want to create this culture that students are encouraged to be creative in that aspect. But we also want students to come together and to write together. And I think that's one of the greatest things in songwriting, is when you can bring different musical influences and ideas to the table and really mesh them together. So I think that 2019 is going to turn out to be a fantastic album as well. As we go through the process, I'm very encouraged by what I've heard so far, and so I'm really looking forward to it.